Veterans with arena scars crisscrossing their backs? Kitchen slaves who'd never held a weapon before the escape. Each descent was a roll of dice against death. The ropes frayed under use. Hands bled until bones showed. Men bit through their own tongues to keep from crying out as volcanic rock shredded skin. 100 hours, 50 gladiators stood on ground below. Then, 100. Their numbers growing, the Roman sentries continued their lazy rounds below. Never looking up at the cliff face everyone knew was impossible to descend. Wine and dice games held more interest than vigilant duty when the enemy was trapped. Some ropes snapped under repeated use, dropping men the last 20 feet onto volcanic stone with sounds like breaking pottery. Bones cracked audibly. Blood flowed, but even injured gladiators crawled into formation, ready to fight or die, because pain was an old companion from years in the arena. 130 hours, 300 gladiators stood in Roman darkness, where physics said no man could stand. Weapons were distributed with brutal practicality, kitchen knives to those who could use them effectively, rocks and lengths of vine to the rest. This wasn't an army in any traditional sense. It was a pack of cornered wolves who had found a way to bite their tormentors. Here's the detail historians don't want you to know, because it makes Roman incompetence obvious. The descent took nearly 4 hours of continuous activity. 4 hours when any Roman guard looking up would have spotted dark shapes against gray stone. 4 hours when a snapping rope sound could have alerted sentries to investigate. 4 hours when everything should have gone catastrophically wrong. 200 hours, 700 men stood behind Roman lines where Rome said no man could stand. They formed into rough groups with arena efficiency, Crixus leading the strongest fighters. Oenomas organizing flanking units with tactical precision, Spartacus pointing toward the Roman camp spread before them like a feast of equipment and revenge. The transformation was beginning its final phase. Starving slaves were about to become an army using Roman equipment stripped from Roman dead. By midnight, 700 armed shadows moved through darkness toward 3,000 sleeping Romans who believed themselves safe. The killing ground was prepared. All that remained was to water it with blood and screams. 200 hours, 700 shadows moved through darkness toward 3,000 sleeping Romans with murder in their hearts. Spartacus raised his hand in the arena signal for readiness. Behind him, gladiators gripped kitchen knives and sharpened stakes with hands that knew how to kill. In minutes, they would either be free or dead. And death at least would be on their own terms. The Roman camp stretched before them, a sprawling mess of tents and campfires. Glaber hadn't bothered with proper fortification because why build walls when the enemy was trapped on a mountain? Centuries walked predictable patterns. More concerned with staying warm than watching for attacks everyone knew were impossible. 15 hours. Spartacus pointed to the nearest sentry post. Crixus nodded, moving with surprising stealth for such a massive man. The Roman guard never heard death approaching from behind. A hand covered his mouth to prevent screaming. A kitchen blade found the gap beneath his helmet where neck met armor. The first Roman died in silence, his spear passing to eager slave hands, still warm from its owner's grip. What Glaber didn't know about security would kill him and 2,800 of his men. 2:30 hours, the advance began in earnest through the sleeping camp. Gladiators spread through the camp's edges like oil seeping through cloth, silent and deadly. Each dead sentry meant another real weapon, replacing kitchen implements. Each captured spear turned a kitchen slave into something resembling a soldier. The mathematics of power shifted with every silent kill in the darkness. Then came the moment that would echo through centuries and shatter the night's silence. A Roman soldier, stumbling from his tent to relieve himself, walked directly into Oenimos's group. His scream, "The slaves are behind us!" shattered the night like breaking glass and triggered chaos. 300 hours, panic erupted through the Roman camp like wildfire through dry grass. Soldiers stumbled from tents, half-dressed, grabbing desperately for weapons in darkness. They expected to find a few desperate slaves attempting suicide. Instead, 700 killers flowed between tents like a tide of vengeance that had been building for years. Gladiators knew how to kill efficiently from arena training. Spartacus's men didn't waste energy on battle cries or dramatic charges that looked impressive. They killed with mechanical precision, learned from years of performing murders, thrust, twist, move to the next target without emotion or hesitation. Every dead Roman meant better equipment for a slave's hands. In the command section, officers tried desperately to form their men into fighting units. "Form ranks!" a centurion screamed with parade ground voice. "Shield wall," but panicked militia couldn't form ranks in darkness with enemies already among them, killing shadows that moved like demons. The centurion's commands ended in a gurgle as Crixus' captured spear found his throat and silenced him permanently. 3 15-hours full assault launched across the entire camp. What happened next defied all military logic that made Rome dominant. Roman military doctrine depended on organized formations, disciplined movements, coordinated attacks following officers' orders. But there were no formations possible in darkness. No discipline when death came from every shadow. No coordination when officers died before orders could be given to panicked troops. Individual combat erupted everywhere across the camp. A Roman soldier, brave despite his fear, managed to form a small group of comrades. They locked shields, presenting spears outward in textbook defensive position that should hold. But these weren't legionaries with years of training. When Crixus led a charge directly at their shields, while other gladiators flanked through darkness, their formation crumbled like sand castles before waves. The killing became systematic, the victory absolute. The transformation complete. The statistics were staggering and defied belief. Of 3,000 Roman militia, fewer than 200 escaped the mountain alive to spread tales of demons rising from solid rock. 2,800 Roman dead littered the mountainside by dawn. Weapons and armor for 2,800 men now equipped the growing slave army that had started with kitchen knives. Glaber's body was found near his tent, pierced by a dozen weapons. No one gladiator claimed the kill, suggesting he died in chaos rather than heroic combat. This single night on Mount Vesuvius changed Rome forever. Slaves had not only escaped, but annihilated a Roman force through impossible tactics. Every slave in Italy heard the message. Rome could bleed. The rebellion would eventually grow to 120,000 before Marcus Crassus crushed it in 71 B.C., crucifying 6,000 survivors along 100 miles of the Appian Way. But for one night on a volcano, kitchen slaves became soldiers. The impossible became real, and Rome learned fear. 70 men with kitchen knives descended a cliff everyone said was impossible, killed 2,800 Romans, and proved that sometimes desperation plus innovation equals revolution. Subscribe to Great History for more battles, where the impossible became reality, and desperate men changed history forever through courage, creativity, and absolute refusal to surrender.